Hey Dabbles, happy 2023! I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season and safe one, and I hope you have an incredible and abundant 2023 ahead of you. So today I'm really excited to share with you one of the ways that I decorated the townhouse that I staged and kind of share with you how I created some decor based on some inspiration, and I'll share that inspiration with you as well, and how you can create some really cool things to make it something like nicer than what it is. So basically in this video, I'm going to share with you how I created a focal point in the house that I was staging for this townhouse that I renovated. And basically I always try to create pieces within my homes to decorate for a variety of reasons. One being that, I like to make things my own. There really is something that is so incredible when you create a piece. It's like your own art and you feel so proud of it. And especially, God, if anybody says anything when they come to your house and they're like, oh, I really love that piece, it's like, oh my gosh, you just melt over and swoon, and it's really incredible. But also, I don't have a ton of money to spend. I didn't when I was staging this house. I don't always when I am, decorating my own place. And, I like to have, my spaces feel really good. I've spoken about this before, but it's really nice to come home and just make your home feel like a space that is inviting and cozy and welcome. But also, I like the way that I feel when I go to certain places. Obviously, I'm very obviously into home decor and the way that ambiance feels in different restaurants and hotels and all of that stuff, but I want to bring that stuff home. I think home trends are really fantastic because you can make your home feel like those places that you feel that you spend so much money to go to, and whatever your aesthetic is, whether it is to feel super glam or low key, minimalist, all of that, whatever that feel good is for you when you go places and see it outside, it's so nice to be able to bring that into your space. Now, one of the trends that I absolutely love, the aesthetic that I really like right now that is really popular, is this modern bohemian. There's also modern Mexican and this, very southwesterny feel, but this was done many years ago, and it kind of fell off. It was a lot of the skull heads and whatever, and the farmhouse obviously came in and kind of took over that, and still had this ranch style, but kind of more on the farmhouse rather than the Southwest ranch. And now it's kind of shifted, probably because of COVID, probably because we were working from home, probably because we've had, a pretty challenging few years with whether, you were affected by COVID with your health or your job, or if you weren't, you saw so many people around us, all the things that are happening in the world. So, I think that there's something that is to be said to, having a cozy feel at home, making it feel as zen as possible, because we did spend so much time inside. And I think that there's different ways that you can obviously, decorate and do things to make your space feel authentic to you, but also to what makes you feel good and brings you joy. When you look at a modern bohemian, it's kind of really just laid back. There's a lot of different pieces that are either worldly or, very desert types of vibes, modern Southwestern kind of stuff. My inspiration for a lot of my places, I brought in pieces of Joshua Tree. I brought in pieces of that deserty, vibe. I just love that. It's very cozy to me. It's very minimalistic. It doesn't feel overbearing, and it just, I don't know, I like the way that it feels. I've brought in pieces of that to my own home, and I'm going to share that with you eventually. I've got so many videos to make. And thank you all so much, by the way. I just have to, digress a little bit and just say that I am so incredibly thankful to all of you who continue to watch my videos. I got a recap for 2023, and despite the fact that I only was able to make a, very couple amount of videos this year, I will say that I'm just so appreciative, between all the people who have watched. Also, when people leave me comments and say, please continue making videos, or I love your content, that really just warms my heart. And I just have to say thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, because, we create these videos sometimes and it's am I making this for the air? I don't know. But even if it resonates with one person, that's all that matters to me, and it makes me really happy. So thank you again so much. For those of you who subscribe, thank you so much. If you're not subscribed, please do. And please follow me on Instagram, because, creating these YouTube videos, I do put a lot of effort in them. When I stage the house that I, still need to make all these videos on, I basically just threw a camera in the corner and hoped that I captured what I wanted to capture. And I was like, I'll just do a little voiceover later. And I also like to edit in pieces so that it's not just me talking to camera the whole time, and that, that it's a little bit more, compelling. So, it takes a lot of time for me, and I just, I've had a very, very busy year. So, I don't always get the time to do it, but I do share a lot of incredible creators' work on my Dabbarella Instagram. So please go follow me there. I've got, stuff and stories that I put in all the time, sharing other people's content so that I can, continue to inspire and share different things that are happening, even if I can't share with you in that moment. So please, subscribe and follow, and thank you so much again. So the aesthetic that I really, really like, and that, I was kind of, alluding to earlier, is that I love that modern minimalist kind of feel. If you are in the LA area, there's a hotel called the One Hotel. One of my girlfriends, she's an event manager, and she literally goes to all the cool places, and she's always taking me, and she's showing me, because she's like, oh, it's like, all these events. And for me, I'm like, oh my God, look at this decor. Like, I love the ambiance. Like, what can I be inspired by here? So it's really interesting. But the One Hotel, if you go there in the lobby and restaurant downstairs, it's just like all these, like, it feels like Restoration Hardware type of, like, seating areas. Restoration Hardware has these like cloud, and I think a lot of places have it now, but like these cloud couches that are just so comfortable, you just sink into them. But it literally is so cozy and comfortable. But it's, the aesthetic that has like, like wicker baskets and, stone and concrete and different like, natural materials and clay and terracotta, and like mixing all of that, like sculptures. And I really love that. I think, I've mentioned this in some of my videos, that like the aesthetics that are really, really in and do really well, no matter which kind of way you go, it is bringing a lot of natural elements inside. And that is, bringing in wood tones, bringing in, stone, things that you wouldn't always see inside, you're now seeing. And I love that neutral palette that, a lot of these places have. And it's like, I think eventually it could get really boring. And I read an article that we're like losing color in everything that we do. So I'm hoping that there is a turnaround on that. But right now we've had a challenging few years. We had COVID, we had all this stuff going on around the world. And it's been chaotic. So I think that, bringing in that like peace is just, it's something that we all can use. And so I love the natural and neutral tones that you can put throughout your house. So I'm just gonna give some inspiration of different places that I've seen this done really well, and kind of like what I was like looking to bring in. And I'm just gonna caveat that clearly these places that I'm sharing with you are like very expensive. What I'm gonna create, with baking soda and paint is not gonna like give you that aesthetic. But if you're like me and you're a DIYer and you're not gonna go spend, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe, maybe more or less, to decorate, then, do it yourself and find a dupe, and that's what I try to do. One thing that I will say is that I do get inspiration in different ways. And so I look at things that I like, and then I'm like, how can I do that for a lot less money? And so obviously if you follow me, you're probably frugal in those ways as well, or creative. One of the places that I love looking at, and obviously if you're not in LA, you can't go to the One Hotel to see what that looks like, but you could go to social accounts for different places. And one of them is the Olive, and I'm probably butchering this, but Olive Ateliers? I don't even know. I took French for many, many years, and you would not know it. The only thing that I remember is saying je ne sais pas. But if you go on their Instagram account, I mean, literally you can just go through. To me, this is like swoon worthy. I absolutely love this kind of stuff. But basically they have all these different like, sculptures and concrete vases and just, it's just all like, I don't want to say natural, because it's obviously not natural for the concrete stuff, but it's just absolutely, big and neutral, and it just feels like you are in a garden. Another place that I love looking at, because I've mentioned in other videos as well, that basically people are really trying to bring those elements of outside in, bringing nature inside. So plants are like having a moment, and I love it because I freaking love plants. I've gone into it myself because my sister, I mean, if you saw her house, she's like the typical like millennial that has like all the stuff, she's got 500 million plants, and they're like all exotic and all this, and it's all over. It's amazing. But basically, that is something, And I think, again, we were stuck indoors, and a lot of us who live in cities, we don't have access to forests and all of those different things. So bringing that inside, having fresh air. I'm a huge fan for this stuff anyway, because I'm like, it's producing fresh air for you half the time. I know that they're not all made for that, but you know, it filters the air for you. It's just good to have. So I am a huge proponent of bringing live plants inside, and that is really big. So one of the accounts that I love following is Bear Imports. Berber, I don't know. Again, I could be mispronouncing it. When I was staging that townhouse that I renovated, there was different things that I did. When I was, you know, going to initially look at the place and what we were gonna do to renovate it, the homeowner did still have stuff there. And essentially I was like, you know, I don't have money to completely stage this place, so I'm going to try to use things that they already have. So one of the things that I did was found this vase, and it was exactly what I was going for. Not only do I love this aesthetic of this like modern Mexican or modern bohemian look, which this kind of falls into either of those categories, but also I was like, their fireplace is beige. And because the fireplace is the focal point, like when you walk into the main door in the home, that's the first thing you see. It's also like the focal point of the entire, you know, middle space, which is like if you have people over, that's where you go. Sight lines are huge. Anytime you're doing anything in decoration, it's all about sight lines, and I'll have a whole nother video on that. But you know, having the sight lines where people's eyes go to and having that focal point when you walk into a space, what you see is very important. And so since this fireplace was already beige and we weren't spending the money to renovate that, I was like, I'm gonna play off of that. I've got this beige vase, I've got this beige marble on around the fireplace, boom, that is my focal point, and everything else that I did kind of went from there. So in this case, I'm gonna put these like neutral tones inside of the fireplace. I wanted to put multiple vases, and I was inspired to do that because when I lived in Studio City many years ago here in California, I had a fireplace, and I live in LA, like it's freaking hot 90% of the year, and I just don't need a fireplace. So what I ended up doing is buying these gorgeous candlesticks, and they were like coral and whatever, and I kind of made it look like an aquarium, and it was like really upscale and really nice. And I will say, like, the same thing on HGTV, like when I watch it on demand, a lot of times it comes up on this like this photo image that they kind of like slowly zoom in on, and it's a picture of a fireplace with a big vase in the fireplace, and I was like, oh, I like that look, you know? So those are the inspirations that I kind of had gotten, and I was like, I'm gonna keep that neutral tone and those beige colors, and everything is gonna be that like matte, like if you were to take that and put it on a color, you know, bar, basically everything that kind of comes off of that. So it's gonna be like blacks and like light, you know, different shades of browns and beiges and all of that, so it just kind of like blends in together. So essentially I wanted to do that, but obviously, like if you go to try to find, you know, vases that are made out of like stone, you know, or like clay or, you know, terracotta or whatever, it can get pretty pricey, especially if you're getting, you know, I wanted this like medium size because it was going into the fireplace and I was limited in that way, but like it can get really pricey. But I found a dupe that how you can do that for very cheap, and my goal was to create these 3 vases that go in there to kind of be the focal point of the living room. So what I did was go and look for unique, different shaped vases. I went to thrift stores, I went to antique shops trying to find things that were really cheap because this is all for staging. I didn't know if I was going to be using it later wherever I was going next. And essentially I was like, you know what, I'm going to use that middle one. I ended up finding, the homeowner actually had another one that was a unique shape, really didn't love the colors. It was this like green and pink color. And then essentially I ended up using that because it's a cool shape. And then I found a couple other things. I went to the Dollar Tree, so that's always a place that you can go to. They always have glassware for like plants and stuff. And I was like, you know, it's not the best shape in the world, but whatever. It'll complete the look. I'll have 3 for a cheap amount. I think, you know, I was using leftover paint. I ended up using black and I ended up using white. And essentially I had that left over from different projects around the house. Obviously, if you watched my other video, I used the black on the closet doors and the doors upstairs. And then I had white from the different trim when I was updating upstairs as well. So I had the leftover paint. I bought this $1.25, you know, vase. I ended up buying this other vase. I didn't want it for the fireplace because I didn't feel like it looked right, but I actually did love the look of it. It's exactly the cool vases that are out there right now, and find cool vases and buy them. When you see them at places, buy them, because unique shapes kind of elevates your space in a unique way. But I found this like vase and it had this huge hole in it, and I was like, this is it. that's it. And this will be the thing that I pull out and put somewhere else, not in the fireplace, so that it's got that same theme throughout without going overboard. So essentially I ended up getting these pieces, and it's so simple, guys. Literally, you take paint, you take whatever paint that you're gonna use. If you have leftover paint, you can go to the Dollar Tree and just test this out for yourself if you don't wanna do it on, you know, a piece that you find that otherwise. And essentially you take the paint and you mix it with baking soda. And I use a solo cup so I can just throw it away and make it less of a mess. And I used a paintbrush that I had left over. Obviously you can get them at Dollar Tree as well. Mix that up. I don't know how to tell you exactly how much to put, but I will tell you that it depends what you're kind of going for. So when I created the ones for the fireplace, I wanted them to look like terracotta. I essentially wanted them to be very subtle, but like have a little bit of a texture on there. So I use a lot less of the baking soda, and you still have a decent amount in there. That's what I would say, is like err on the thicker side rather than the not thicker side, but you can kind of play around and test it and see how it looks, and you can even do like a test patch if you want to. But basically I just mixed the black paint with that and then just kind of brushed it on, and it eventually ended up just having this like terracotta type of look, and painted terracotta, and I loved it. And then I did another vase, but this time I wanted it to look more like I had done this like clay modeling sculpture, which I am taking a class on that soon, so I will let you know how that goes, and hopefully share some things that you can do at home. But essentially I wanted it to look like I had sculpted this vase, and so I ended up using a lot more baking soda, and you know, wanted it to be very imperfect. I wanted it to look like I scraped it and blended it, you know, and all of that. I didn't want it to have that smooth look, and I love the way this turned out. The only caveat I will say with the white one is that essentially like it looks like a sculpture, and I love that. But you know, if you're gonna use it for an actual planter, like you need to be careful, because you know, it does come off, like it does kind of crumble like when I would move it. So it needs to be, if you're going to use a lot and make it really like thick like I did with this white vase, make sure that you are doing it on one that's, you're not going to touch that often, and probably not going to get wet, because I assume if I were to actually put water in there and use it as a plant, like put plants in there, it might get kind of messy because it does kind of crumble off. But the terracotta black one, I mean, I actually did use it recently to put some huge Easter lilies that I had, and it was fine. It didn't, you know, it didn't come off at all. So I think it does depend on how much of the baking soda that you're putting in there and what kind of look that you're going for. But basically I just painted it on, let it dry. I think I probably let it dry like overnight, maybe even 2 days, so that it was fully dry before putting it out, because I didn't want it to get anywhere, and you'll be able to touch it and see if it's dry. And then I put it in the fireplace, and it just looked so good. For a while I just had the vases, and then I was like, you know what? Because I had popped in, you know, plants within that space when I was staging it, I went and bought some like unique looking leaves at Michael's and basically just cut them up and put them in the vases just to add a little bit more something. This is just a unique way of being able to redo vases, especially if you find ones are really cool shaped. Like that is the key, is find cool shaped vases, and then you can do this on there, and it just elevates the vases that you have. Anyways, thank you all again so much for watching my content. Thank you so much. Let me know if you create this, like how it turned out. I would love to hear how your projects go. If you ever have any inspirations on any of the videos that I'm creating, I would love to hear it, because I'm always looking for new projects. And I do have a ton of videos. I just need to sit down and edit them. It just takes a really long time, and I've had a very busy year. So I am sorry that I haven't been able to create as much content as I always hope to. But hopefully in 2023, that will change, and I'll be able to create a lot more. But thank you for all of you that have stuck around, and you know, again, follow me on Dabbarella on Instagram. I would love to see you there, because I'm always sharing other content creators on there within my stories, and would love to continue to inspire you even in between my videos. But until next time, guys, thank you again so much. Enjoy. Hope you make some beautiful, cool looking clay dupes. Bye, guys.